liberals. We woke.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was here on the Ides of May. I'm Saeed Khan, and it may not necessarily feel weather-wise as though we are now in the month of May, but rest assured we've got some weather coming up that should attest to that. Nancy, you are exasperated about this.
I am exasperated by this weather. I mean, I'm glad that we're finally getting some warm stuff, but it crashed from 55 to like 75, and it's supposed to be in the 80s on Monday. And it's like, what happened to our spring? What happened to our spring after that brutal winter? We deserved a soft, gentle 70-degree spring. We didn't get it.
Same thing that's happening to the U.S. dollar, Nancy. So I think that there's a correlation there.
We got winter inflation.
It reminds me of a song. You can't always get what you want. Try sometime.
It's just my fine.
There we go. True. Very true.
Okay, we're really upgrading the show now with
It's like when David Alan Grier on Living Color said, wrote a song about it, want to hear it? Here it goes. All right, well, let's introduce our wonderful panel that we have. We have two of our three veteran lawyers right now. We have Bill Seikaly, we have Joel Sklar, we have former Fox 2 News host and anchor Huel Perkins. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, the exasperated one weather-wise, and then we of course have the co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Well, he's heading back home, folks. President Trump is coming back from Beijing. Quite a bit of fanfare, quite a bit of optics. I'm not sure what else really happened there. And shame on you, Allan, for not having at least a video clip of him arriving at Beijing airport with that very long red carpet.
Right.
Kids with flags feting him as he came down. But of course, no Xi Jinping to greet him, the so-called leader of the free world, the most powerful country right now. And yet here we find that Xi Jinping sends some underlings to go ahead and receive the big kahuna.
Diplomacy is so fascinating, you know. So many layers.
Well, and the Chinese are expert in this. So, contrary to what the president said to reporters as he was chastising most of them for operating on fake media outlets and providing fake news, there were the 4 T's that were not really fully explored and resolved while he was there: trade, tariffs, Tehran, and Taiwan. It seems as though there weren't any real trade deals that were made. It seems as though tariffs, according to the president himself, wasn't even something that he brought up. Apparently, according to POTUS, the Chinese are totally on board with whatever we have to say in our narrative about Tehran and Iran. And it looks as though we've got a little bit more equivocation and shrugging of the shoulders regarding Taiwan, including whether the president is even committed to go forth with the $14 billion arms sale that had been promised to Taipei, and that it seems that even his Republican-led Congress wants to see through. So, who won this one, folks?
Not the American people. Sound and fury signifying nothing.
Yes.
This was another distraction. This was another, well, I'm not winning the war, probably losing the war in Iran. So let me go to China and see what I can do. I need Xi's help. Well, no, I don't really need his help. I can do it without him. But he goes over there. He has a lot of wonderful state dinners, a lot of fanfare, a lot of photos, but nothing happens. Because frankly, in this situation, Xi has the upper hand, not Trump. And there's nothing he can say or do to change that right now.
Well, Huel, I'm glad that you invoked Faulkner there with the sound and the fury. But the Chinese did their own at invoking Western tropes of culture and literature to us. Xi gave a fascinating speech in which he referred to the Thucydides trap, in which he was talking about how there is an emerging power. China here, of course, is the inescapable parallel, and a declining power, i.e. the United States, and that he was trying to forewarn that these kinds of disputes, especially with a declining power, should not be met with violence and war. I'm sure that went well over the head of Trump's Eric, Lara, and Donald, along with some of the other people that were there, and unfortunately also past a lot of our media pool that was there. Anyway, Bill.
So that theme, by the way, was that speech was not the first time he gave that speech. I mean, he's been doing that, I think, for about 4 or 5 years. But I want to disagree with Huel a little bit, with all due respect. The fact of the matter is, I think that she won this one. I don't even think it was close. I don't think it was a distraction. I think we got our ass kicked. I mean, Trump is... Trump believes that if it works on him, it must work on everybody. And so he goes in and, oh, people don't want me to say this, but you're...
Oh no, he froze. But I take, yeah, go ahead.
And the fact of the matter is, one, it was embarrassing. And two, if you know anything about Chinese culture, it just doesn't work. I mean, that technique does not work in that culture. It doesn't work in many cultures, but Trump doesn't seem to realize it. I mean, I'm seriously concerned that we're going to walk away from Taiwan thinking that, oh, then they'll be nice to me, because maybe I would be nice to somebody if they did something that big for me. I think we got our lunch handed to us. This was an embarrassment, as I'm concerned.
I've seen Cobras more skeptical of the flautist than Trump was in watching him sway to everything that Xi Jinping had to say. So.
My guess is that every time a world leader meets Trump, they can't believe how stupid he is. They can't believe how inept he is, and it educates China and their leadership about who they're dealing with even more than they're early educated. They know the man they're dealing with. Trump doesn't appreciate nuance, so no nuance is going to strike him. He's going to come back and lie to us, but
he won't listen to any expert who has been studying this country all their lives. I mean, he thinks that it's all him and his great deal making skill.
He's the deity. Everybody's got to see him as the deity, but he got his ass handed to him. He came in with nothing. And probably gave away a whole bunch that we don't even know. God knows what this man said. 3 hours or how long he was with Z. This is crazy. Yeah. So we got our ass handed to us. I mean, we are a power decline. It's a fair, obviously we are a power decline.
Right.
We have a little video of that trip from Fox News was there.
This is the Family Mart convenience store in Beijing. Inside is a Galbot robot. The dominance of AI. Beijing is trying to lead the way in AI and also in humanoid robots. Let's go inside. This is the first of its kind for this kind of interaction. If you want to order something, hello, can I get a sausage, please?
To China, home of one of the most famed cuisines in the world, and ordered a convenience store sausage? Bread, you're making us look weird in front of our future overlords. Although it could be worse. Usually when someone at Fox News asks someone to grab their sausage, it comes with a $10 million lawsuit. So,
that's very funny. But there was a piece in the New York Times that a few weeks ago about China's domination of manufacturing, and they were talking about dark factories. Even with however many billion Chinese there are, they have a labor shortage, mainly because they followed the one-child policy and for so long, and so they have developed their AI to essentially do the work in factories that human beings used to do. And what's more, they call them dark factories because, of course, robots don't need lights, and so they're just churning away 24 hours a day. And it was was terrifying because you realize this is the future that is coming for all of us, and who's gonna prosper in that environment? It's they were talking about robots that even like little street vendors, pushing a sausage cart or whatever they do in Beijing.
Dim sum.
Yeah, dim sum. Well, this one guy, they were talking to this one guy who's got like a very small foundry, probably similar to what we used to have in Detroit in the early 20th century. And it's hard for him to get workers because it's difficult, hot, dangerous work. And he's getting a robot to do some of this stuff. And he's just a small business owner. But that's how far advanced they are in AI and robotics compared to the United States.
Very competitive in AI. We do have speaking of birth rates, we do have another video.
Focus of the event was America's lower birth rates. So, of course, Trump invited RFK Jr., health secretary, and guy whose iPhone screen is always greasy. So let me ask, RFK Jr., why are birth rates down? And please remember, when you answer, don't make this weird.
For men in 1970, men had twice the sperm count as our teenagers do today.
But Dr. Oz, maybe you have a good reason. And again, you know what? I'll remind you. Just please, don't make it weird.
So let me speak a little bit about the reality that 1 in 3 Americans are under-babied.
I said don't make it weird!
Well,
who's using teenage boys' sperm counts? And weren't we all told in health class in high school that men, ejaculate gazillions of sperm in every, whatever, and it only takes one? I mean, what's going on here? That is so creepy. Don't make it weird.
Nancy, I went to middle school in Lapeer, which is pretty conservative, so health class just simply said no touchy, no touchy. No touch.
But you did anyway.
No, what?
Hey, Huel,
even talk about how weird it is that this happened in the Oval Office. My God.
Huel, there's 2 amendments that we abide by at this in this podcast. One is the First Amendment, and the other is the Fifth. I'm pleading, and I'm pleading that one.
No touchy.
The reason we're not having children, the reason my sons, ages 30 and 32, are not having children is because they can't afford it.
Exactly.
It's so expensive.
Exactly.
That's why we don't have kids. Because to have a child would put a burden on the finances that they're struggling with right now.
Daycare costs as much as college. And it costs at a time in your life when you can't afford it. I mean, you're just starting in your career, or at least you're fairly early on in your career. You have a child, and then suddenly you're expected to pay thousands of dollars every month for decent daycare. I mean, it's insane.
It's frequently more than your salary.
Yeah,
well, we're joined by
not that daycare workers are paid well, but
no, they're not. I mean, who's making all the money in daycare? Hi, Steve.
Hey, Steve. So we're joined by a third veteran attorney, Steve Fishman. But speaking of the connection of college, Nancy, and daycare, and of a college where the curriculum is not too different from daycare, Hillsdale College has had its commencement speaker this year, none other than the grieving widow herself, Erika Kirk, who in fact then also mirrored this theme that we need to screw baby screw. There needs to be an upping of the birth rate. We need to go ahead and populate Father America. Yes, speaking of touchy. So this seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not really fond of making historical parallel analogies, but isn't this whole idea of fertility something that we've seen about 100 years ago in some Western European countries? I seem to recall this whole idea about populating the Volk.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. What is it? Kinder Coochie something? I forget what it is. Are
you talking about those? Are you talking about those candy eggs that were banned because American kids were too stupid and they were swallowing the toys?
I speak 3 words of German, so I wouldn't even try to do it. But yeah, it is. It's very much like that. And another podcast that I was listening to or working out was this guy talking about political violence. It was a professor who studies this somewhere, and he said there are two things that are intersecting right now in the United States, and in fact all over the world, that kind of that make for fertile groundwork for political violence. And he said one is the rise in income inequality, the rise of this mega billionaire class, and the while everyone else struggles and continues to slip. And the other is the realization by white people that within the next 20 years we're going to become a minority. We'll still be it'll be a huge plurality, but we will no longer be more than 50% of the American population. And where a lot of us would look at that and say, great, more ethnic restaurants, and delicious food. A lot of people look at that and they say, where are my mediocre children going to work if they don't have the privilege of their white face? So, there you go.
Well, they won't even work in those restaurants because they're all family run. So no touchy all over again. But this is also dovetailing the fact that the inflation rate has actually climbed to about 3.8%. And at the same time, as he was leaving for said trip to China, President Trump, in meeting with the press pool for Jumping on Marine One, when asked, well, what about this going on in this country? He says he didn't care about America's financial situation. He just doesn't care about anybody, quote unquote.
Every once in a while he tells the truth, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he does. Steve.
Well, the thing about that, and I'm sure, all you guys, Huel in particular, since he was in that business, you talk about something that's made for commercials between now and October. Or November rather. I just can't imagine. All you'd have to do is play that over and over and over again, anywhere where people are struggling, which is pretty much everywhere outside of where the billionaires are living. And I don't even think it crossed his mind. Do you guys think it even crossed his mind when he said it? Oh my God, I fucked up.
No, he never thinks
I
that.
don't think he fucked up. He'll defend it. He's not going to back away from it. He's going to.
Yeah, because he doesn't back away from anything.
Right, he's just going to lie, whatever it is, but he'll never apologize or walk back.
It's worse than that. He gets forgiven for everything. His followers are so blind.
Yes.
They don't care. Every time I hear somebody say, oh, now he did it, I just roll my eyes.
Yeah.
You could think about all the things that you could put in those ads, Steve. Grabbed her pussies. I don't give a shit. Kill somebody on Fifth Avenue. I won't lose a vote. That last one, by the way, is absolutely right. He can say and do anything, and these lemmings are going to follow him right off the cliff. And unfortunately, bring most of us with him.
Steve.
I agree with you, Bill. The lemmings will do that, but I do believe there are more and more people that are going through what they're going through financially. And a statement like that, you're right, it's not going to help with the MAGA crazies. But what about the guy who voted for him and thought he was going to do something good for the economy and blah, blah, blah. And now the guy can't pay for gas and a parking place at the same time. I think it's going to make a difference. I don't know.
Not at all. I agree with Bill completely. And let me tell you why. Because the former Confederacy, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, it doesn't matter what he says or does. They will vote for him even if they are suffering financially. Even if they can directly point to him as a cause for that suffering, they will still vote for him. And that's the sad and frightening thing about where we are.
Allan, we just had a viewer with a message that says doesn't matter because you're still going to have all the guns, the badges, and the power. So I want to ask some of you people, any of you have badges?
I don't need no sneaking badges.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
I don't need no sneaking badges.
I want to read two great Dwight Eisenhower quotes. He says, if a political party does not have its foundation in the determination to advance a cause that is right and that is moral, then it is not a political party. It is merely a conspiracy to seize power. And then the other one is, never let yourself be persuaded that any one great man, any one leader is necessary to the salvation of America. When America consists of one leader and 158 million followers, it will no longer be America.
That's fair.
Love it.
I thought pretty applicable.
Yeah. I mean, let's just keep in mind, though, there are a there are more people who despise Donald Trump in this country than love him. And I think that, it's just up to the Democrats who, are infamous for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory to screw this up somehow. So,
Well,
but I think people are paralyzed.
A lot of them are, and a lot of them
weird hoes that you've spoken of before. It's like, can we do this? No, wait, this is happening over here. I mean, we're spinning in a circle trying to keep our, over the, out of the vortex. It's hard, right? It's hard.
Bill.
But look, we've talked about this in the past. Here's the problem. You've got a 40% block that walk in unison. They are not separating. They're going to keep on marching together.
Yep.
So let's say 60%, unfortunately it's not that high, but 60% hate Trump. But they don't agree on who ought to lead. Look at the Michigan Senate race. Look what's going on with Haley Stevens and McMorrow and Abdullah El-Said. That's what democracy should look like. You ought to have those kinds of debates. But when you've got a 40% block that doesn't move and they are gerrymandering all these states, it makes it impossible.
Right.
This is the death of democracy. This is what it's going to look like.
But even Bill, in that kind of, even in that example of democracy, I mean, in the Michigan Senate race on the Democratic side, to the point where people are now splitting hairs about semantics, saying that Abdul El-Sayed isn't really a physician because he didn't go through his residency. I mean, is this where the debate is these days? I was in Huntington Woods a couple days ago giving a talk, and there were just a lot of Abdul for Senate badges. There you go, badges, and support, interestingly, from a very progressive audience there, who were just completely appalled by the idea that they're going to try to get this guy on a word, which is probably the most ludicrous thing. Nancy,
it's my understanding that he went through an MD PhD program, which is
he went through an MD program and a PhD program, just not an MD PhD program.
Oh, okay. But from what I understand, his intent all along was public health, and public health is policy making and analyzing data and not wearing a stethoscope around your neck. And
this began with the fact that he, on I think National Nurses Day, reached out to the nurses and says, listen, you guys do all the work. All of the times that I was in the ER and I saw a patient code, you guys were there doing all the work. And somebody said, aha, how could he do that without residency? There's something called clinical rotations when you're still in med school and you are in the room when the coding has happened. So this is not even an issue. And it's kind of, I'm sorry?
You're using nuance again. In fact,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We're not good at
okay.
that.
Bill, for you, I'm going to go hysterical again. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I mean, and I have given up. I've given up talking to anybody that I know about the Senate race. I know what I'm going to do. I'm a fairly smart person who's done my due diligence, and I will support. It might be like this, but I will support whoever gets the nomination. And I don't know if people are going to do that. It's like the stakes are too fucking high.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karen Winston.
Right.
There's only one name on August the 4th, and that's Lengel.
That's right.
I agree with Barb. I think in the Senate race, you're going to see what we've seen previously, where the Bernie Sanders people wouldn't vote for Hillary. I think we're going to see the El-Sayed people who won't vote for Haley Stevens, and vice versa. I think you're going to see some extreme situations there. I think it's going to happen. So.
Yeah.
I think what's worse is if some of the Haley Stevens people who, if the other two, especially if Abdul gets the nomination, they vote for Rogers. That's
that could happen.
God, it is. It's very. Barb is right. The stakes are extremely high, and it's.
Well, Barb, enough of the Senate talk. Let's talk about the governor's race. Go ahead, Alan.
Real quick. I'll say that I've talked to some Jewish friends who are progressive, but they're pro-Israel, and they're concerned about Saeed being, whether you want to call it anti-Israel, anti-Israeli policy or whatever. But they say if it's between Saeed and Mike Rogers, they might sit it out. And I think you're going to see the opposite with Saeed people. If Haley Stevens is there, they're going to say she's AIPAC and it's bullshit, and we're going to sit it out. We're not going to vote for Mike Rogers, but we're certainly not voting for her. I think we're going to.
And nobody will vote for Mallory McMorrow because she was homesick once and tweeted it. So that's
right.
like a terrible
and she bitched
thing.
about Michigan winter.
Yeah, wow. How dare she?
I mean, didn't we just do that about 10 minutes ago?
Yeah. Listen, I don't know about you guys, but every morning I wake up, I say I love Michigan weather right before I say I love Big Brother. So that's baked into the cake. But Barb, for you, talking about the governor's race, it looks like there's some tension between Perry and Johnny, or at least their campaigns. Both the campaign for Perry Johnson and the campaign for John James, respectively, are looking to go ahead and call for investigations of the other campaign on allegations that the ballot petitions might be a little bit faulty, given that there may be too many false signatures on that. This seems to be kind of a recurring theme. I know Shri Thanedar raised this a couple of years ago. Is this, sort of the procedural tactics that we're going to get mired in?
Well, a couple of things that are interesting. I don't think you ought to be allowed to pay people to go out and get signatures. Mm-hmm. And so, listen, in my heart of hearts, when I read these stories, I was thinking, God, wouldn't it be great if they were both investigated and both thrown off the ballot? There would be some real progress. But we either need to get rid of the signature petitions system, or we ought to say we're not going to allow people to get paid to do it. It's fraught with danger. The fraud that has gone on is well established, well documented. But pox on both their houses. I hope both of them are determined to not have valid signatures.
Maybe just drop the threshold down from it's like isn't it based on like a percentage of how many people voted in the last election?
Yeah, and but Nancy, it's not an insurmountable number.
And you want have volunteers. I mean, Perry Johnson is such a weirdo. I mean, has anybody caught Perry fever? Do you know any person who said who looked at the platform, who looked at the candidate and said, "That's my guy"? I mean,
actually, it depends on what you mean by Perry fever. He makes me cautious.
That would be Perry dysentery.
Occasionally, my temperature goes up when I watch those commercials.
Yeah. Have you ever done a petition thing, stood out there and tried to get people to sign petitions?
It's hard.
I always feel so sorry for people that do that, because that is it's hard.
It is.
And even when, like, I had a woman at the Royal Oak Library come up to me and say, "Would you sign a petition to put Rick Snyder back on the ballot?" And I went, "Have you lost your mind?" No, not recently.
Oh, okay.
I just kind of went, "Have you lost your mind?" And then I went, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's cold out. It's a Michigan winter." And she was out there. I didn't sign it.
You are so nice to people, because when people come up to me at the Eastern Market, like somebody came up when RFK was running for president and asked if I would be willing to sign for RFK, I said, "Get the fuck out of my face," and I use the F-bomb. So, I mean,
wait, Nancy, you didn't use your RFK Jr. voice?
No, I hadn't worked on it enough yet. I hadn't workshopped my.
Guys, you need to have that threshold high.
People to do it.
But here's what you need to have that threshold high, is because you don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry running.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Right. So you need to have a process that would allow voters to decide who can run. But you don't want just anybody running because they say I'm qualified. That's why the petition process is there. But I agree with you, Bill. It is ripe for fraud. as we have seen in races in Detroit and across this state.
Mm-hmm.
We saw two gubernatorial candidates thrown out a few years ago because the petitions were wrong, and people went to jail because of it. And they went to jail because of it. But you need the process there to weed people out. That's all I'm saying.
And I want to go back to Barb's question. I have done this. What seems like 100 years ago, but it's probably only 15. I ran for district court judge, and you know what? I stood out there, asked for people to sign it. It was a way of campaigning. And the fact of the matter is, I still have probably 2 or 3 dozen people who I stay in contact with regularly, who I met doing that. Look, I hated losing that race for a whole bunch of reasons. But the fact of the matter is, it was one of the best things I ever did, getting to know people, knocking on doors. I'm still in contact with a lot of people from that campaign. And it was very meaningful to me. So there's a benefit. And if you have the right volunteers, they do the same kind of things. Volunteers who believe in the candidate and who are committed don't just go out and get signatures. I mean, I remember somebody walking up to me and say, "Will you sign this?" And I said, "No, I don't support that." And they said, "Well, it's just to get him on the ballot. I mean, doesn't he have a right to run?" And I said, "He has a right to run. He doesn't have a right to get my signature." So, those kinds of arguments shouldn't be there. And I'm sure this guy worked. I mean, I'm sure he got signatures with this argument. The fact of the matter is that it ought to be part of the campaign. It's not anymore. I mean, it is, you pull money out of politics, you will improve politics. People.
Amen. Amen.
Amen to that. Allan, why don't we go to a quick commercial break, speaking of money?
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
So things are so bad regarding the gubernatorial race that the Michigan Education Association has declined even endorsing a candidate. That's pretty bad. And on top of that, I guess in related news, independent gubernatorial candidate Mike Duggan seems to be slipping in the polls. Any explanation for what's going on?
That's not bad news. That's not bad news.
Okay. I was trying to be non-editorial about providing that piece of information, Bill.
Said the bad news, there's bad news, and the MEA couldn't endorse, and he's slipping in the polls. That second point was not bad news.
Did I say bad news? Okay.
Why do you political folk think he's slipping in the polls, Huel?
Yeah, let's ask Huel, because I have no idea.
Well, look, I don't know either, but my guess is Donald Trump. Mike Duggan had to play a very strategic game to run as an independent. He had to try to pacify both his long-term Democratic supporters, but also the new Republican-moneyed supporters who don't like Trump, but who want somebody who will listen to the business perspective. So initially, Duggan had them all. I mean, he has the endorsement of several huge business leaders in Detroit and across the state. And most of his campaign money is coming from them. However, as Trump's popularity declines, he's losing what leverage he had with them and with voters who might vote for him. So that's the problem. People are looking at a candidate in this state who can probably provide solutions to the problems that Trump is causing. And that's why we are where we are.
Hill, there's also something I heard, I don't know how true this is, that some of those business leaders from which he's drawing a lot of support are very pro data center. And as word is getting out about Duggan's support for building and expanding data centers, that's something for which there's backlash. Anything on that?
I would know about. I don't know if data center, the data centers are the key issue here. I think it's really the fact that Trump has lost so much support. Starting this war has caused his profile to diminish among independents. Independents are now switching dramatically over to the Democrats now.
I think Duggan has tried to navigate, tried to, as you were suggesting, appease the Trump people.
Yep.
And as you say, people are freaking out about, they're reminded every day as they're driving down Woodward or Gratiot or wherever, they're seeing the gasoline prices and they're pulling into gas stations. And for those who are commuting every day, have a half hour, 45-minute hour commute, that's a lot of money that's getting poured out. And so I think there's some discontent there. But Duggan, what advantage Duggan has potentially, he's starting to run ads now, I think, because he realizes he needs to get out there more. He's starting to spend some money. He strategically has 6 months as opposed to the Democrats and the Republicans who only have 3 months for the election. He doesn't have a primary, so he's probably trying to figure out how to pace himself without taking himself out of the picture. I mean, if you enter the primary in August and you're so low in the poll, it casts a lot of doubts on your prospects in November. So who knows? I don't rule him out. He's a very smart strategist. And so.
But Alan, have you noticed that the ads that he's running contain no word of the mentioned governor? He calls himself in those ads mayor.
Right.
And he doesn't say what city, right?
Why do you think that is, Huel?
I think that he is trying to appeal to a core audience. Look, Detroiters loved Mike Duggan. They came to love Mike Duggan, black and white. Love that man as mayor. So he's trying to hold on to that support and at the same time court the outstate voters. And he's looking for inroads. And I don't know if he'll be able to find those roads, but that's what he's looking for now. But he calls himself in those ads, Alan, mayor, not governor.
Well, it's beneficial for him to remind everyone that he's mayor. I'm not sure about when Sri Tanadar keeps mentioning that he's congressman. But Barb.
I don't discount the way that people feel about the data centers. People are out in force, and people are across political borders out in force because they want to turn on their taps and have water come out of it. There's news that in Georgia, where a data center was built, no public discussion that people are taking showers. People can't wash their dishes or get a glass of water out of the tap. One of the problems that Mallory McMorrow is having is because her perceived income coming in part from data centers through her husband's work. And also, it is a big deal, and people are going out to these meetings, and they're going to city council meetings all over the state in pretty big numbers, and they're making a huge difference. I think that's that, and if Duggan is tied to that, that's one more thing to hurt him. But also, I just want to say, he never uses the word Detroit. He talks about himself as America's most effective mayor. He doesn't say of where, because if you're north of Flint and you say the word Detroit, we all know what the code word for Detroit is.
Right, exactly. I have a hard time reconciling this groundswell of opposition to data centers and the number of people who casually admit to using ChatGPT and AI crap just all the time. And it's just, I mean, I say, gee, I wish I knew how to work this pace clock at the pool, and this lady will go, just ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you everything. And it's like, I don't use AI if I can avoid it.
They give it nicknames.
Why does this surprise you? Why does this surprise you?
It shouldn't surprise
Everybody complains about education in America.
Yeah.
Everybody. Yes. And what have we done to provide real funding for education in this state or most other states? Virtually nothing. Teachers are being paid at such low rates compared to the rest of the country, compared to the rest of the world and other professions. And we do nothing to provide support for teachers or support to the classroom. We do nothing. And then we complain about it. People don't want to pay the price for anything they do. They want it. They want it cheap. They want it preferably for free and no consequences.
I think it's by design. I mean, the way that power is being used is that the uneducated are valued. The uneducated will propel you to a position you don't deserve. And so there was, we're seeing this, like, public school was great. My parents went to public school. I went to public school. Public schools were great. And to see their demise, you see the demise of democracy kind of goes with it, because we're not an educated or informed nation. We don't know how government works. Ask people what the three branches of government are. People really don't know. Ask them what the Constitution says. Just ask them a few. What is it really? People really don't know. They think they know, but they don't know. And so the dumbing down of America is, this is the result. We get a dumb ass president because we're idiots, and that's kind of where we're going. I would love to see public education be funded like the military's being funded. Put 1.5 trillion in education. Bring it up. Make college free. Make us smart again. Massa. We got to make us smart again, and we're not doing that.
Joel, you've destroyed my childhood. I mean, Dean Wormer told me that fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. But apparently it is. And speaking of that, I think we've got video of somebody who proves this every day as our FBI director.
Let the record show, Mr. Chairman, the director of the FBI apparently does not want to answer the question about whether or not it's a crime to lie to Congress, and I find that extremely troubling.
I find it troubling that you lie to the American people every day.
You are a disgrace, Mr. Director.
Not nearly as big
the
as
fact that you can't answer that question.
Ooh.
Rubber and your glue.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the administration, it looks like Joel Sklar. Nice.
I love that. I would buy a vowel if I could buy a vowel. Scholar. No idea. Thank you, though. Thank you for the vowel.
It looks like there's quite a few efforts being made by this administration to have a chilling effect on speech and on press. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has warned reporters who receive classified information that they may be subject to potential investigation. I know that obviously they'll go ahead and investigate anybody that they want, but legally speaking, where do we see this going?
Ask Allan.
Here is a. Sorry.
Really?
Dogs are wonderful. They're allowed to bark. So.
In the federal system, there's not a privilege for reporters. And they'll haul a reporter in, and unless somebody has the gonads to stand up, if the reporter doesn't reveal his source, unless the source has the gonads to stand up and say, I was his source, the reporter's going to go to jail.
Yep.
And
Obama failed to. We thought Obama was going to pass something to protect on the federal level, and he did not. And Eric Holder didn't do a lot for that cause as well. I for 4 years with the I was part of the Anthrax coverage. Me and 5 other reporters of USA Today and Newsweek, and I was at the Post. We were trying, Stephen Hatfield, who was a suspect in that case, who ended up not being the guy who sent the anthrax, he was suing the government for leaks. And they were trying to find out who the leaks were. And we went on for 4 years. I did 3 depositions. One was 8 hours. One was with Stephen Hatfield's attorneys and the DOJ. And we stood firm that we weren't gonna, and that we were gonna go to prison if we had to. And thankfully, it didn't get there. But it went on for 4 years, and it was a long, stressful situation there, where it was always hanging over my head. But
Joel, the dog is always welcome here. By the way, can anyone name the 3 American presidents that have not had a dog? There's only been 3.
Donald Trump.
Yep.
Wow.
You're going to have to go way back.
Yeah, I was just going to say, after Donald Trump, he doesn't. Well, go ahead.
Did Harding have a dog?
Harding had a dog. Andrew Johnson, fellow impeached president, and also James Polk.
Wow.
Really?
Those are the only 3.
The Clintons got on the dog train kind of late in this presidency. They were cat people until. But what was the dog's name? Buddy, I think.
Buddy.
And Buddy ended up getting hit by a car somewhere in Westchester County, New York.
Like we're on Jeopardy. Was that the final question?
Wow.
Actually,
very good, Nancy.
I think that dog was actually sitting next to Vince Foster in D.C. Okay, I know, too soon. Well, it's not just that Trump seems to have an issue with dogs. He also seems to have an issue with the mouse. Because FCC Chair Brendan Carr is looking now to investigate on a censorship watch Disney company, in part because of some of the negative comments that people on The View have made about the president. But it seems as though this is a farther wider net that is being cast. So here's a man who has the power of deciding about mergers and acquisitions of these large conglomerates of media and entertainment companies. What kind of a chilling effect do we see happening with this?
Look at what's going to happen with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
You're not talking about hypotheticals anymore. It's happening. It is absolutely happening, and it has a chilling effect. And
Well, when the president on Air Force One mentioned 7 times within 30 seconds that he found some of the reporting, especially about the Iran war, citing fact as being treasonous in his opinion, that's troublesome. Nancy.
Well, you get Comey indicted. Yeah. I mean, for the shells,
for seashells, right? Yeah. I mean, the fact that people are not rising up and burning the fucking White House down. Of course, a third of it's gone already, so it doesn't matter. But over this stuff is it's so appalling to me. And that's when I mentioned earlier that more of the company hates Donald Trump than loves him. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I run into people all the time who are just like incandescent with fury about this stuff. And yet it continues to go on. And, who knows? So
I think we can one of the recent polls showed 86% of the Republicans in Michigan approve of Trump. Of that, 33% of that group was MAGA, and of that 33%, 100% approved of everything. And so I that concerns me.
It does, and I'm not trying to do the Pauline Kael thing where it's like I don't know how Nixon won. Everybody I know didn't vote for him, but I mean we're talking about this coffee clatch show on daytime television where people occasionally say mean things about the most powerful man in the fucking world, and this is somehow supposed to be an FCC violation. I mean. What country is this, for crying out loud? It's ridiculous.
But Nancy, the point is the threat. The point is the threat.
I understand that, and it's a threat.
I don't believe that Brendan Carr will in any way take Disney and ABC's right to broadcast. But the threat he is hoping will silence.
And they will do that. And they will do that. That is why. All these CEOs are capering for Trump's attention because they're afraid that they're going to want to do a merger or something down the road that's going to make them even richer, and they need federal approval for it, and they're not going to get it. So
Larry Ellison owning almost everything, CNN, CBS. It's horrible.
TikTok.
It's frightening.
TikTok. Yep.
TikTok too. Exactly.
Alan, I think we have a video. Speaking of CBS,
but listen, as we are, what is wrong here?
Nothing's wrong, Dave.
As we all understand, you can take a man's show, you can't take a man's voice. So that's the good news.
I like on In Between Two Ferns, Zach Galifianakis called David Letterman Crystal Meth Santa Claus.
It's a wonderful show.
If you see the whole clip and where they go up, Dave and Stephen Colbert go up in the roof of the CBS building, and they just as you said, the wanton destruction of CBS property, and it's the funniest 5 minutes I've seen in forever. And at the end, David Letterman says, "Good night and good luck, motherfuckers." So they did censor it on the air, but he absolutely said it, and it's sad, but it's hilarious. It's the funniest thing. They break a big CBS eye.
Yeah.
Well, it's really, I mean, for a guy who grew up with Walter Cronkite, to think that network, that had Walter Cronkite at the anchor and changed this country's position on the war in Vietnam, now has taken the knee and given in to everything Trump wants. I'm going to watch the last Colbert show, and I will not be watching anything on CBS after that.
Yeah, Byron Allen is replacing Colbert with 2 comedy specials that are not even worthy of the time slot. It's frightening. But that's where we are as a country, because frankly, we depend on money in broadcasting, print journalism, and the revenue from our industries is gone. The internet has taken it all away. And so
all I can do is say, CBS, not a station as far as I'm concerned. I won't watch it, won't deal with their advertisers. I won't do anything.
Our pocketbook is the greatest power we have as citizens.
I don't know.
Right now in this system, withholding our money and our attention and our clicks is the only way to do anything. But again, this is to go on your point. This is the station. This is the network where Edward R. Murrow stood up to one of the most powerful people in the United States and told him to eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah.
And that America was better than that. And he was right.
Well, that's kind of, yes. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, I kind of feel like this is the United States, and even the buying sheep that go into this, who are bending the knee to Trump have to know that. But I guess they just don't care. So there you go.
You must care.
Or has been said by Xi Jinping that we are the Sparta of the now. So, but it seems as though some cabinet members don't have to stay in D.C. to hold their job. In fact, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy apparently was on a 7 months long reality TV show road trip sponsored by a bunch of different corporations that have major interest in decisions and policies that are made and enforced by the Department of Transportation. So
and we
there
were
we
paying
are as
this
a country.
clown salary the whole time. I mean, I'm flabbergasted by this. Why are there 2 Allens now? I mean, am I seeing double?
Can you hear something? My internet's been going crazy.
So the guy waving his hand.
And both should run for Senate. So I'm just saying. So let's go to our last segment.
Oh, Fish has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Fish. I'm sorry, Fish. Sorry.
I wanted to ask Huel, because he said it before. Now this guy Sean Duffy. Are you saying, Huel, that all the MAGA people, they don't give a shit about that either?
No, they don't.
Okay. All right.
They drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago. And no matter what Trump does or what his acolytes do, they will go, yeah. They will vote for him no matter what. And that's the sad thing. Gratefully, it's a smaller percentage of the voting public than I initially thought, but it's still enough to sway the election because of the goddamn Electoral College.
Yeah.
Because you have every southern state voting for Trump, and you have those electoral votes going for him. You have, a few weeks ago, we had a chance to have the Democrats regain control of the House. But now that the gerrymandering has come, in light of the SCOTUS decision, that's done. The Republicans are going to still win the majority, no matter how we vote. That's the frightening thing. That's the scary thing.
And people say political violence is not the answer.
It
was the answer to the Confederacy. It was the answer to the Nazis.
And they lost.
Exactly.
But
All right.
no.
I'm not calling for violence.
I know you're not. I know you're not. But somebody on the FCC may call you. I'm just.
Is that what we did when we defeated the Germans at Pearl Harbor, Nancy?
No.
I think we need to start saying nicer things about Trump here if we want to keep doing this.
Not me.
No,
All right, let's
it
go
is
to-
a
let's go
time
to our
for a
last-
stupid gesture.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right.
Let's go to our last segment, Alan.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right, Steve, who's your schmuck?
I have collective schmucks. It's everybody in the media that's either written or spoken on television about how awful the Pistons are and isn't this disgusting what's going on. They all seem to have forgotten that 2 years ago they won 14 games. This year they won 60 games. They won their division. They won a series. Whether they win this one or not, anybody that's got eyes can see what's going on in terms of the officiating. And people are criticizing Langdon, criticizing Bickerstaff. Anybody that ever threw a ball across the street knows how full of shit they are. So, Huel, your former colleagues are my schmucks of the week.
Well, I agree with you, but let me tell you this. People don't remember that we drafted Isaiah Thomas. It took us 8 years to win a championship after we drafted Isaiah. It's going to take us some years to win a championship again, but we're making progress. I agree with you, Steve.
You're headed in the right direction.
It's because of those disgusting Celtics, including their announcer, Johnny Moster. Anyway, okay. Serenity now. Barb.
We've talked about all of mine, and so I'm going to have to go with my third, and that's Rand Paul's son. Who went off.
Sorry, didn't mean it.
I know we're shocked, and I know that Steve doesn't want to talk about this anymore, and I don't blame him, but he launched, in the words of MSN, a vile, anti-Semitic, and homophobic tirade at Mike Lawler in a D.C. bar, saying that Iran war was about the gays and the Jews, and I hate them both, and I don't care if they die.
Yep. In front of a reporter, he did this.
Is that wrong?
Which shows that he's not very bright either. So
No.
Yeah.
And
Reflection of his family.
Maybe Rand Paul's neighbor was warming up by punching him out, and maybe now he's going to come after the son.
I would like to make a small proposal, because everything is so depressing. Can we do a good news of the week?
Yeah.
Hero of the week.
Who do you have?
I was looking at things today, and it's like, Jesus, there's so much, but every once in a while, and I don't mean to sound like I'm, a little happy person, because I'm not, but it would, that's all. That's just a proposal.
You're
We have to do more work to find those stories than we do for Schmuck of the Week.
I know. The schmucks come leaping out at us.
They do leap. All right, Huel, who's your schmuck then?
Oh, Brendan Carr, head of the FCC. He's an idiot. He's an acolyte. He doesn't know what he's doing, but then again, he does know what he's doing, because he's simply doing what Trump tells him to do. But he is destroying public media in this country. He is destroying what I think is necessary for democracy. But can we stop him? Not while Trump's still in office.
All right. Joel.
I got two. All the idiots that bought the MAGA phone, that Trump gold phone, we're never going to get that Trump gold phone. Good choice. Then I have also Pete Hegseth for asking for like $1.5 trillion for defense spending without giving any indication of exactly what that's for. And he's just not exactly a schmuck. But if you want to find about fraud and abuse, maybe you want to take a look at the military-industrial complex. Don't take food out of people's mouths. It's not the welfare that's going to kill us. It's going to be the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower was right. That's what's going on. They're $1.5 trillion. That's an absurdity. And it just shows you, if we're going to an autocratic nation where the military is, going to be the strong. It's very dangerous in a million different ways. But it disgusts me that there's so much fraud and abuse in military spending, and nobody does shit about it.
Nope, you're right.
Barb, I think if you're looking for some good people of the week, maybe Matt Damon as Brett Kavanaugh, Aziz Ansari as Kash Patel, and Colin Yost as Pete Hegseth in the cold opening of SNL last week.
It was a really good one.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
Nancy.
Okay, I am going to go with the trustees of the Ohio State University, and especially the Attorney General of Ohio, Dave Yost. If none of you are aware, Ohio State has been going through a sexual abuse scandal connected to its athletics department that is virtually identical in so many ways to the Dr. Anderson case. that happened at the University of Michigan. It was a team doctor who, was gay and manipulating these athletes, and it's very bad. It's a very bad case. He was allowed to retire. He was given emeritus status. He eventually hung himself here in Canada in the last few years. He's out of the picture now. But the university is nickel and diming every single claim for compensation from the athletes. I think we all know what the magic number is when you have a scandal of this order, and it is $500 million. It is approximately what Michigan paid to its athletes, and it's what Michigan State paid to the victims of Larry Nassar. And so far, Ohio State, in this really treacly statement that they have on their website about how much they care about survivors of sexual abuse, paid $61 million. The reason I named Dave Yost, the Attorney General, who's P.S. outgoing, is because he filed to in federal court to have some of these cases dismissed because they came before the governmental immunity waiver law was passed sometime in the 80s, and therefore they have no claim, and blah blah blah. And it's like, look at the number, settle it in your head, and then pay it out. And how often do we talk about Dr. Anderson now in Michigan now, or even Larry Nassar? Not very often. But this story is going to be dogging them. It's like I wrote to a friend of mine in Columbus, this is my hometown, and he said all these people know how to do is step on their dicks, and that's what they're doing. So, Dave Yost, Ohio State University trustees, wake up and smell the coffee.
I was going to say no touch on that either, Nancy.
No touchy, yeah.
Okay, Steve.
The interesting thing about that is, obviously, as somebody who was part of the Dr. Anderson lawsuit, Michigan from the beginning, once it was brought to their attention, they basically said, we're going to pay all you guys and ladies too. He managed to mess around with some women too. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
At the same time, when Nance talked to me about this, Ohio State, now I know it was this attorney general, whoever it was, they took this case to federal court, and it went to the Sixth Circuit. And it wasn't until the Sixth Circuit ruled in the favor of the athletes that everybody was able to say that. Now they're nickel and diming these guys anyway.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It's the almost identical conduct. What Doc Anderson did was just what he did. The other guy did what Nassar did. And Doc Anderson was allowed to retire. Nobody said anything about it, blah, blah, blah. It's the exact same conduct. And, well, it's Ohio State, Nance. What do you expect?
Yeah. There's a great Netflix documentary called Surviving Ohio State that I recommend. And it gets into some of these cases. And some of them are truly tragic. There was a hockey player from somewhere in Canada that just, his life just really spiraled. So anyway. Okay.
Bill.
Yeah, I've a group. You guys have picked a couple of mine, but I want to call out everybody who is raping in the Trump administration, that's raping this country. The people who are betting and trading based on inside information. The president's sons, Donald and Eric, who, as Joel pointed out, launched this new gold-plated Trump phone. Brandon Carr, Duffy, who's out doing a series while he's supposed to be working. And they're all schmucks. They're destroying this country. And this is what I would like to say to them. I was at an art fair this weekend and found this, and I couldn't resist. You guys are all schmucks, assholes, and pariahs. The money that they're stealing from this country could solve the healthcare problem and the education problem. And by the way, where is the fucking Justice Department?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
In Trump's pocket. That's where they are. In Trump's pocket.
This is the Trump law firm. That's what the AG's office is.
Exactly.
That's Trump's personal lawyer. That's where the DOJ is. It's completely insane.
That's why people are not even taking the recruiting bonuses of $25,000 to join the DOJ.
Right.
Or answer the calling to serve the country. So, Allan.
I'm going to go with Barry Weiss, who I think is just fucking up CBS in so many ways. They're arrogant. 60 Minutes. I mean, we've had Sharon Alfonso quit, who I thought was great. Duggan, Leslie Stahl is talking about maybe leaving. They've turned 60 Minutes in the end now, just to sort of appease the religious right.
Yes.
They have a commentary at the end, like Coach K or Franklin Graham are giving these little whatever the hell they are.
What's so great about America?
Yeah, and it's so creepy. It just feels so creepy, and it feels so pandering to the Trump administration. She's destroying CBS. She brought in that Tony
Dokapol,
who dissed Walter Cronkite when he's coming in. I mean, this guy. I mean, she's somebody. She's a smart person. She's young. She doesn't have the experience to do what she's doing, but she's destroying the place, all for the sake of appeasing Trump. I'll also say Kash Patel. I want to give a shout out to this man who's looks like a Kash Patel.
That is the greatest.
Patel, by the way, but he's done great. And that one is if Barb, in line with Barb, Abby the chimp died at the Detroit Zoo this week. 42 years old.
Wow.
And they talk about her as being famously clever. And here's a statement. They say her wit and her unmistakable presence made this place brighter, which I thought was really so touching. So anyways, shout out to the zoo and Abby.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of the religious, Allan, one of my schmucks is all of the MAGA religious leaders who went down to Doral Golf Course of Trump National Doral Golf Course to put their hands on the gold leaf statue of said fearless leader. So that was only slightly mildly blasphemous. Let's see. Tony Dokapol has to be considered a schmuck because he couldn't even get himself a visa into China to cover the president's speech. So he had to go to Timu, China, i.e. Taiwan, to broadcast from there. And unfortunately, his cameraman, unrelated to him being a schmuck, had a medical emergency. So it was just absolute chaos. Kash Patel, for different reasons, Allan, it's now been disclosed through emails that apparently he took a VIP snorkel tour of the USS Arizona while in Hawaii, to the point where the FBI had to actually provide a statement saying it was a historical tour to honor heroes who died in the USS Arizona on December the 7th, 1941. Not a party.
Wow.
Sure.
Oh my God.
But my schmuckette supreme has to be Congresswoman from North Carolina, Republican Virginia Fox, of the age of 82, who had a 10-year-old student on a school project go ahead and write to her and ask her about EVs, electronic vehicles. And he even proposed this idea about a $5,000 tax rebate. He'd researched this issue quite extensively. And remember, there were tax rebates at one point for people buying EVs. She slams his proposal as a foolish idea, calls him reprehensible, and says, quote, "You're taking money out of pockets of hardworking people who may not have the means to buy an electric vehicle in the first place." She castigates a 10-year-old boy.
Awful grandmother. Awful grandmother.
Yes. If you see her, this is a shrew that just cannot be tamed. So, Virginia Knox. Yes. What an evil person. Well, listen, that brings us to the end of our broadcast, and thank you all for joining us, and of course, thank you to our team here. Thank you, Steve Fishman, who had to leave a little bit early. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Huel Perkins. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Nancy Derringer, and thank you, with the last word always, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely and go.